I recently spoke with some single friends and colleagues about their dating experience, and they were all lamenting their experience with the dating pool. Many of them shared how they had thought they found their person, but then they got rejected by that person. And others of them were just like, look, I'm done with dating altogether because they have just been so disappointed and discouraged by racking up rejection after rejection. And even though they all were confused by what seemed like relationship dead end after relationship dead end, I was wondering, what if their dead ends were actually detours? And what if those detours actually ended up saving them from a future that they might regret? You see, I believe that in God's hands, rejection is protection. And so in this episode today, let's talk about it. Well, hey there, and welcome back to the Nona Jones Show. Listen, if you paid attention in season one, there was an episode that I did with my husband where we talked about what 20 years of marriage had taught us about ourselves and about just the institution of marriage in general. But here's the thing. I actually fell in love for the first time in high school. And my boyfriend at the time was an amazing guy. And we were both talking about marriage and what married life would look like after college. But y'all, things did not go as planned. And today I want to invite you into my story because it is a story of romantic rejection. And this story changed the way I view rejection. Not only that, it actually became kind of the thesis for my new book, The Gift of Rejection. So, just so you know at the outset, I'm going to change names as I share this story because I do want to help protect people's identities. But this story is 100% true. All right. So, here we go. Um, so when I was in high school, this was probably, I guess, 10th grade, I was selected to do a citywide leadership program. And it was a program for high school students who were considered to be the next generation of, elected officials and business leaders and leaders in entertainment. The way the program worked, they essentially selected two students from each of the high schools in my city, and it was like I don't know, an 8 or 9 month program. And every month, what they would do is they would bring all of us students together for a program day. And the program days covered everything from city government, state government, sports and entertainment, banking and finance. Just they were giving us like a bird's eye view of how the economy worked in our city, with the anticipation that we, as the most, I guess, accomplished students at our high schools, would eventually become the people that would lead those institutions. So, first day of the program, I was so excited to be in the program. In our first day, I think we did like a city government day. We met at City Hall, and I remember when I first walked in the room, there was this crowd of kids standing around this guy, and they were just like enraptured with him, right? And he was just talking or something. They were laughing. Like, I don't even know what he was saying, but I just remember seeing that and being like, okay, I guess he's popular. But I went, sat down and the day got started. And at one point in the day, the program leader said that they wanted to do kind of like a mock city council meeting where we would take up an issue and we would basically vote on the issue, right? So we did the little mock meeting, and it was basically about, I think from what I remember, it was about increasing the rates that the electric utility was going to charge customers. And so the district that I was given was a district that, it was, of course, fictional, but it was a district that was very low income. People didn't have a lot of money to spend on electricity. And so if we were to increase rates, it would significantly adversely affect my district. So when we got to the point of making the decision about what we were going to do, I remember, I just had an idea. I was like, well, what if we structured the utility rates such that instead of it just being like everybody's rates go up, maybe you increase the rates based on how much people use. So people who use less pay less, and it's basically incentivizes people to use less utilities or less electricity. So anyway, went through that whole thing. Everybody loved the idea, and when we went on a break, The guy that I saw at the very beginning when I first walked in, who everyone was like standing around, he came up to me and he basically was saying that it was such a great idea. And I told him, I said, "Oh, thank you so much." He told me his name was Barry, and he told me he was planning to go into an elected office one day because his dad was an elected official. And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." I had never considered elected office until that point. And he said, "You should consider it too." He was like, "You're obviously very smart." He said, "Plus, you're beautiful. And so you would win just automatically." When he said that, y'all, because here's the thing, and I don't know if you'll remember this from season one, but y'all, I had been classified as morbidly obese like my entire childhood. And it wasn't until about that time in high school when I started to lose some weight. And so up until then, I really had never had a guy be like, "You're pretty." So when he said that to me, I remember being like, "Oh my gosh, like, really? He thinks I'm pretty?" And at the end of that day, he asked for my phone number. So I gave him my number, and we started to talk in between the sessions. And I would say about maybe a couple months later, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes. And so we were official, like we were officially together. Well, fast forward to the summer, and trust me, I'll stay with me because this story is going somewhere. He was doing an internship with a state senator's office outside of our city. It was like maybe 5 hours away. And, he told me that he wanted to take me out to the movies when he came back to town, and that was gonna be, like, in a week or so. And so I was so excited, y'all, like, I went, I bought a new outfit, I got my hair done, I got my nails done, like, I wanted to look good, right? So the day comes, I'm really excited, and about an hour before we're supposed to go, like, he's supposed to pick me up, um, he basically called and said there was a family emergency. I think he might have texted me and said there was a family emergency and he couldn't do it. And so I was bummed. Like, I had spent this whole week excited about going out with him, but it was a family emergency. So, hey, what are we going to do? So, I called a few of my friends and I was just like, "Hey, y'all want to go to the movies? The movie starts in about an hour." And of course, they were like, "Yeah, let's go." You know, they didn't have much to do. So, let's do it. So, we all meet up at this movie theater, standing in line to get our tickets. I look over and I see Barry in line holding another girl's hand. I was like, "What?" And, like, when I looked over and saw him, it's almost like at the exact moment, he looked back and saw me, and, like, the color drained from his face. He literally went from, like, chocolate brown to just, like, gray. Um, I was so hurt. I was so hurt, so hurt. And a friend of mine saw him too, and she was basically like, "Nona, he's a jerk, like, don't let him ruin your day, like, I'm so sorry this happened," and all that. So, anyway, get through the movie experience, he calls me the next day, right? I don't answer the phone. He leaves voice messages talking about how sorry he is and that he made a mistake and it's not what I think and just all this stuff, right? So I never call him back. I never call him back. I was so angry. And I remember even thinking, and this gets back to one of the most insidious effects of rejection, when you experience rejection, is that you can start to explain other people's rejection through the prism of your being defective. Like I explained his cheating on me as, "Nona, why would you expect him not to? Like, you weren't as pretty as she was. Nobody wants you, like I had this rationale in my mind that essentially justified what he did. So anyway, um, that experience deeply, deeply hurt me, like deeply hurt me, scarred me. Because here's the thing about rejection, and I've shared this as I've shared the message around the world. In order to even experience rejection, you have to first have had the hope that you were accepted. Like you don't feel rejected because a job that you didn't apply for didn't select you. You don't feel rejected because a guy that you're not interested in isn't interested in you. You don't feel rejected because your mother or father's best friend doesn't look at you as their daughter or their son, right? Like they're not your parents. In the case of the job, you didn't apply for it. You're fine, but you do feel rejected when you apply for the job and you didn't get it. You do feel rejected by the person that you gave the best years of your life to who walked away. You do feel rejected when your mother or your father abandons you or says you're not worthy or in some way diminishes you. And so when rejection happens, y'all, it doesn't just injure our pride. Rejection shatters hope, which ultimately breaks our heart. So I carried a broken heart around for years because of what he did, because I felt like I wasn't enough based on his choice. So anyway, um, that thing happened. I didn't return his calls. Um, and then a few years later, this was when I think I was working, I wasn't at Facebook yet, but maybe I was at the role before Facebook. So this was maybe like 15 years later. He messages me on Facebook and, I didn't respond. By then I was married anyway. And I was just like, I have no reason to talk to you. But he messages me on Facebook. I didn't respond. Then he messaged me again and he was like, hey, I just need to know, do you know any good divorce attorneys? Because I'm getting a divorce. I don't know if he seriously was asking me, do I know any divorce attorneys? Or if he was like fishing, hoping I would be like, oh, you're getting a divorce? Maybe we can try it again. No, right? So no response. No, actually, I did respond to him on that one because I was like, no, I don't know any divorce attorneys. I'm happily married. Please leave me alone. I think I did say something like that. Um, so I never heard from him again. Start working at Facebook, the company now known as Meta. So I start working there, and this was maybe year 2. And a pastor friend of mine reached out to me and said, "Hey Nona, can you give me a call?" He just texted me, asked me to give him a call. So I call him and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "I'm good." He's like, "Listen, I need your help. I need you to help me with taking someone's page down." Now here's the thing. I have had people ask me to help them get their page back up because, the system maybe took it down for violating community standards or something like that. I had never had someone ask me to take a page down. And so I was like, I don't know if I can do that. I was like, frankly, if the page is not violating community standards, like it would have no reason to be taken down. And then the pastor was like, well, the person whose page it is a mentee of mine. And people are saying really, really mean things about him on his page. And, he passed away. I don't want him to be remembered for the worst thing he ever did. So can you just kind of help? And so I was like, well, just send me a link to the page, and I'll see what I can do. I can't make any promises, but just send me a link. So he sends me the link. I click on the link. Staring back at me is a picture of my ex-boyfriend from high school, the guy who um, stood me up to take another girl to the movies. And I scrolled down. First of all, it's like a Twilight Zone. Like, what? Because he just said this person's dead, right? I'm like, what do you mean they're dead? Like, they reached out to me not too long ago asking about a divorce attorney. Like, what are you talking about? This was some years ago, but still, I was like, they reached out about a divorce attorney. How can they be dead? So I scroll down the page, and y'all, all I see on the page is people who are like, serves him right. Cheaters get what they deserve. And then I saw another thing that was like, I hope his wife is okay. So I'm like, what is going on? So I Google his name. All right. The first thing that pops up, pastor murdered by his mistress. I was like, this can't be right. I click the story. There's his picture again. Come to find out, he was shot to death by the woman he was cheating on his wife with. Um, Not only did she kill him, but she tried to kill his wife. So here's the thing, right? Like apparently, y'all, when I tell you Twilight Zone, apparently the woman knew his wife. Like I don't know if they were friends but he was a pastor. Like he was pastoring a church. And so she may have been a member of the church, knew the wife or whatever. So the woman showed up to their house. The wife let her in because she knew her. Like they're just friends, like, oh yeah, girl, come on in. And so Barry's there with his wife and his mistress, and they're apparently just talking. And the article said that the woman turned to leave, but then she turned back around, pulled out a gun, pointed it at him, and was like, "You broke my heart," and pulled the trigger, shot him multiple times. I think he died at the scene. Then shot his wife. Um, y'all, to think this is the thing, right? Um, when I read that story, so many thoughts ran through my mind. Like my heart was racing. But to think that the guy who cheated on me in high school was murdered by the woman he was cheating on his wife with. And for years after that happened, I felt so just bad. I felt like I was discarded. I felt like I had been used. I questioned my worthiness. Um, I, in some ways, kind of blamed myself. Like, Nona, how could you expect him to be faithful to you? Like, he's good looking, he's smart, he's, successful, like all of this. And then I come to find out as I'm scrolling down the article, I see the picture of his wife. His wife was the woman that he was with at the movies that night. So the reality is, I could have ended up on either side of that situation. I could have been the wife that was murdered by the mistress. I don't think I would have been the mistress who killed the wife. I don't think so. But I could have been a woman that didn't even know he was married, thinking that, we're together. The article had said that apparently he had told the woman that, he wasn't happy in his marriage and they were getting divorced and or all this stuff. I I was so blown away by that. And so what I did in response to that is I prayed. I went to God and I was like, "God, thank you so much. Thank you for protecting me. I didn't realize what was going on, Lord, but you protected me." And here's the thing. This is where my book, The Gift of Rejection, came from. As I was praying, I heard God say, "Nona, you think that rejection is a bad thing." He said, "But within every rejection, there is a gift that will serve you. In every rejection, there is a gift that will serve you." And I remember when I heard him say it, I was like, rejection as a gift? That doesn't make sense. Like, that doesn't make sense. But when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I can see how him rejecting me ended up being a gift. Because what if I continued in that relationship? What if we got married and here I am with a man who is a philanderer? Come to find out, he had multiple women that he was having affairs with. It wasn't even just her. And so I realized in that moment that, man, that was a gift. But I was like, yeah, that was a gift, but what about all the other rejections I've experienced? And I started to unpack them, starting with my mom, right? Like starting with all that happened to me in childhood. And I had to even admit that through the grace of God, that experience taught me some things about myself and about my mom that have served me to this day. And we'll get into the specific gifts of rejection in a few upcoming episodes. But one of the things that I realized, even about what happened with my mom and her discarding me and allowing her boyfriend to abuse me, is like so many people are living their lives in abusive, toxic, codependent relationships where you feel like you just have to let this person hurt you. Why? Because you share DNA. Why? Because they're the ones who birthed you. Why? Because they're the ones who contributed sperm to the situation, or because they're a brother or a sister, and you have so many people guilting you into thinking that you have to stay in situations where you are constantly being rejected over and over and over again, unless you do what they want you to do, which is diminish yourself. And I realized that one of the gifts of my mother's rejection is that she helped me to realize that I am not indebted to someone who is intent on hurting me. And that's a gift because as the years have gone by and people have said things like, I can't believe you don't have a relationship with your mom. Like, how could you do that to your mom? How could you, not talk to your mom? If I didn't know that that was a gift, if I didn't know that the way that she discarded me was a gift, I would feel obligated to keep putting myself in position to be hurt, to be mistreated, to be misused. But the gift in her rejection is that in the absence of her being repentant about what she did, she has actually freed me from having to give her access to hurt me. And that is a gift. But what happens is so many of us, instead of recognizing that there is a gift in rejection, that it can teach us about ourselves and other people, we just take rejection as an indictment against our worthiness. And so we allow people to keep hurting us. There was that situation. And then I'll talk a little bit later in another episode about a professional rejection and what that taught me too. But God helped me to realize, man, rejection is protection and redirection. And so when rejection happens, instead of begging someone to stay, we have to accept their decision as what's best for us. Hear me. Do not beg someone to stay who doesn't want you. Do not beg someone to stay who doesn't want to. Don't do that. Their decision is a gift to you because they are freeing your future from their choice. There are too many of us in relationships with people who couldn't care less about us. And they're only staying in the relationship because we continue to give them benefits. We continue to give them access. We continue to be a blessing to people who, the moment we stop channeling benefits in their direction, they will walk away. Y'all, that's not love. That's not love. And so for me, the experience I had with Barry was instructive. It was something that I would say has helped me to grow significantly. It's helped me to realize that another person's choice is not my fault, and another person's choice is actually part of my purpose. So, a few takeaways that I want to leave you with is this: people are not always who they seem to be. The gift of rejection protects you from dangers unseen. There have been times, and I've seen this when I was working at Meta, I saw it as well. There have been times when I wanted a position, like I wanted to, be on a new team, or I wanted to take on a leadership role because it just seemed so new and shiny, right? And I didn't get the opportunity, and I felt so just I just felt like I wasn't good enough, right? Well, fast forward 6 months to a year later, everyone on that team has either been laid off or the team was disbanded. Like it was an experiment. So God was protecting me from something that I didn't even know. He was protecting me from a danger that I could not see. And so I want you to be very thoughtful when those rejection experiences happen. What is it that God might be protecting you from? What is it that God is shielding you from? Because many times the gift of rejection is literally protecting you from things that you just don't see. And even if you saw it, if you're not in a place where you have the fortitude and the strength of identity to walk away from it, sometimes people have to walk away from you because if they don't walk away from you, you won't walk away from them. And they are not good for you. We're in relationships with people so often because we simply want to be wanted so badly that we're willing to be wanted badly. So I believe that the gift of rejection protects us from dangers unseen, and sometimes it's protecting us from ourselves. The second takeaway I want to leave you with is don't allow loneliness to make you accept the unacceptable. Rejection will make you want to be wanted so badly that you are willing to be wanted badly. I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Do not allow loneliness to make you settle for less than your humanity deserves. I need you to hear me. I believe that rejection is a gateway drug into sin. Because when we experience rejection, we don't know how to process the pain. And this is why I wrote the book, The Gift of Rejection. Y'all got to get this book. I'm telling you, it's going to be a blessing to you. When we experience rejection and we don't know how to process the pain, rejection is like an acid. It's corrosive. It begins to decay and deteriorate the parts of our heart that it hits. If you don't know how to process that pain, I am telling you, it will lead you into sin. I know people who are in relationships right now that they have no business being in. Relationships with people who they know are cheating on them, with people who they know couldn't care anything about God or holiness or even having a sense of vision for their future. But they're in these relationships because they feel lonely. Why? Because somebody discarded them, somebody abandoned them. And so they're clinging on to this piece of a person because rejection has convinced you that a piece is better than nothing. Please hear me. Stop settling for less than you deserve just because the pain of a past rejection has made you believe that a piece of a person is better than nothing. No, you deserve a whole person. And not only that, I need you to hear this too. Right before I met my husband, this was in college, I was in a relationship with a guy who he cheated on me, got a girl pregnant. And I remember just feeling so broken that I stood on the side of a busy road one night and I watched the cars drive up and down the road. And I thought, if I just step out in front of a car, it'll be over quick. Like the pain will be over quick. But I heard the still small voice of God say, "This is not my will for you. Come back to me." I had strayed from the Lord, trying to keep someone who didn't care if they lost me. And I do think that too many of us are in that same situation because past rejection has convinced you that it is better to accept what they allow than to be alone. I said this in episode 1, Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6. The Lord tells us to take courage. Why? Because he will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will never physically nor emotionally separate himself from you. So even when you feel like you have nothing left, you have all that you need because you have God. Do not settle. Do not settle. Um, Third, y'all, it is better to be a single woman than a married single woman. When I think about what happened with Barry, and I think about his wife, I don't know her. I don't know her. I pray she's doing well. I pray that she's thriving. But to be in a marriage with a man who has such deep insecurity that nothing is enough, right? Like he needs the attention of all of these women to believe that he is worthy. Like he has such deep insecurity that no matter what you do, no matter what you give, it's never enough. Why? Because it's going into the black hole of his identity. Um, Too many married women are actually single in their marriage because their husbands are not husbands. They are simply wounded boys in grown men's bodies. And so, because they are wounded and because they're not going to therapy and doing the self work to figure out what's going on with me, that I need to be with other women outside of my marriage, that I need to have the attention of women other than my wife, um, I think about how so many married women are wearing the ring on their finger, but there's not truly a union in their marriage. And so I would say to you, listen, my sister, if you are single, And I know how hard it is because a lot of times marriage is idolized, where it's like, if you're not married, something's wrong with you. No, nothing is wrong with you. If you are single, if you are single, pray for the grace to be single and have peace and to be single and have joy. After I stood on the side of the road and the Lord said, this is not my will for you, come back to me. Over the course of a few days, I prayed to God and I said, Lord, if it is your will for me to be single for the rest of my life, I will be single and I will serve you with everything I have in me. And I meant that thing. I meant it. And I meant it to the point where when my husband did show up, and that was maybe 3, 4 months later, I was okay whether he stayed or went. Truly. I mean, I thought he was great. He was handsome. He was funny. Um, I really enjoyed spending time with him. I enjoyed hanging out with him, but I knew I didn't need him. I knew I would be okay without him. And that was very different. Before I made that commitment to God, I felt like I had to be in a relationship, even if it was with somebody who I knew was unfaithful to me. I had to be in a relationship. Why? Because I thought so little of myself that I felt like the only way for me to matter was to be in a relationship with someone. And so, my hope and my prayer for you, if you're single, whether you're a man or a woman, my prayer for you is that you will get to the place that you will have so much peace and joy and contentment that if and when the right person comes along, they will simply add to your wholeness, but they will not complete you. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they will add to your wholeness. They will make you more than you could be on your own. They will not make you what you could be on your own. But you can't be that because rejection has created such a deep hole within you that you need them to fill it in order to be whole. No. My prayer for you is that God will give you the grace to be whole so that they will make you more than you could be on your own. All right. Lastly, last takeaway is this, y'all. Cheaters cheat, liars lie. People do what they do because of them, not because of you. Y'all, hear me. This is important. People do what they do because of them, not because of you. You will be, you will spend the rest of your life trying to figure out why somebody left you, why somebody did to you what you would never do to them, right? But you can't understand it because people do what they do because of them, not because of you. You can't understand why somebody would lie to you if you wouldn't lie. You can't understand why somebody would cheat on you if you wouldn't cheat. So you have to accept their choice as their decision, not your fault. Okay? Not your fault, as their choice. The thing I would add to that is, if you have done something that has contributed to the relationship's demise, own that, right? Own the piece of the pie that you own and grow from it. But don't allow what another person owns to become your responsibility. All right. People do what they do because of them, not because of you. I want to close with a verse that I hope will encourage you, especially if you are single, because again, I think back to my friends and my colleagues who are just like, I've actually had some people tell me like the dating pool has pee in it. And so, if you have gotten to the place where you're just like, you know what, man, I can't do this relationship thing anymore. I've been hurt too many times. I can't even trust that people are going to be who they say they are. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 8 through 9, the apostle Paul says, now to the unmarried and the widows, I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried as I do. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. Now, here's the thing. He said, if you cannot control yourself, go ahead and get married. But here's the thing. It would be good for you to stay unmarried. But if you can't control yourself, go ahead and get married. Self-control is a fruit of the spirit. So if you have the spirit of God living on the inside of you, you actually can control yourself. All right. You can control yourself. If you are in a state of singlehood, Do not think that that makes you less than, or that you are somehow missing out, or that something is somehow wrong with you. Instead, I need you to consider that the season that you are in is one of the most blessed states to be in, because you have the freedom to be who God has called you to be without wondering if other people approve of it. Okay? So, you have the fruit of the Spirit, you have self control on the inside of you. Y'all, listen, if I knew then what I know now about Barry, would I have, even dated him briefly in high school? Probably not. But I'm grateful that I did, because now on the other side of that situation, I can see how God is right. Y'all, rejection is a gift. I am so glad he did what he did. Oh, I'm glad he did what he did, because that could have been me, y'all. That could have been me. But God is good. I'm going to close us in prayer. All right. Father, I thank you, Lord, for every woman, every man watching this, Lord. My prayer for them is that you would help them to understand that rejection is a gift for the opening. That there are lessons that it can teach us about ourselves and about others, Father. And even in the midst of our deepest pain, Lord, you are still working. You can still work all things together for our good. I pray for that man or that woman that is nursing the pain of a rejection from a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a wife or a husband, someone that they thought they'd spend the rest of their life with. God, I pray for healing to flow through them even now, Father. Help to change their heart and change their mind about the situation, so that you will be glorified in all that they do. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Y'all, thank you for watching. And I'm telling you, pick up The Gift of Rejection. You can order it at nonajones.com. You can order it at Amazon, any of your favorite online booksellers. This book is going to change your life. All right. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.